and welcome to another episode of Ardent Cinema, the number one podcast for a book club style discussion of all things movies. This is a weekly podcast, and we encourage you to follow along as we take a deep dive into each movie's plot, overall themes, what we thought of the acting and directing, our feelings on the film, and more. At the end of each episode, we will announce the movie for next week, so make sure to listen until the end. I am your silent host, Sean.
Now I'm the sheriff of this podcast, Danny.
Welcome to the show. Soy Alejandro de España. No hablo español. This week, we hope you watch along with us for The Great Silence, 1968.
Perché dopo che è passato lui, resta soltanto il silenzio e la morte.
La tua pistola difende le ingiustizie.
Available on Amazon and Blu-ray. Written and directed by Sergio Cabucci, starring John Luis Treñant as Silence, Klaus Kinski as Loco, Frank Wolf as Sheriff Gideon, I'm going to go by Sheriff, Vonetta McGee as Pauline, and Luigi Pastiglia as Henry Pollicut, also known as the Banker. In a strange twist, the bounty hunters are the bad guys, and the outlaws are just looking for a good meal. Our hero, Silence, aka Batman, must defend the denizens against an unscrupulous banker and a group of bounty killers who work without discretion. If only he could tell them the error of their ways, things might have turned out better. But he can't because he's silent. I thought it was a lot of fun. I love the idea of taking the strong and silent archetype to its extreme. It plays a great balance of being hokey but serious enough to get invested in the drama. What'd you guys think?
Well, first off, I see a lot of the Quentin Tarantino.
Oh yeah,
in
he's a
this movie.
fan.
Oh yeah, huge fan of this film, especially the Hateful Eight and Django.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of big comparisons there. But yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun as well. I have a few issues with the story that we'll get into later. And I did like the overall silent protagonist route that they went with, but sometimes it was a little too hokey, especially like they did this like recurring scene where like people would try to talk to him and then they're not sure, they don't know he's silent and they're getting mad at him, and then
It only happened twice.
was it twice only?
Yeah, it was only twice.
Okay, well, I don't know. That was enough for me.
That was too much.
It was too much. I don't know. I didn't like that. It kind of went away from what I wanted the tone of the movie to be.
All right. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I enjoyed the film a lot. I would say this film has a lot of parallels to the director's other, I would say, more famous film, Django.
Mm-hmm.
And there were actually a lot of specific parallels in terms of the story beats that occurred in both films that I thought were great. But then there was a bit of a subversion in terms of what happens here versus what happened in Django. So I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
I would say overall, just a very solid Western. I appreciate whenever a Western is set in snowy times, like in winter,
Yeah, it's cool.
because they're very few and far between. And it's usually about like surviving the elements. So I like the fact that for the most part, all the characters were well trained and be able to handle the elements. So it wasn't really about fighting the elements. It was more about like just their conflicts and resolving them, and just the way like the winter theme set like a really unique backdrop to the whole film, especially like the visuals and the vistas that they show. I mean, my goodness, this film is gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, overall pretty solid film, I would say.
Yeah, I want to actually add on to that point. Well, first off, you saying the film is gorgeous. Yeah, for a 1968 film, I thought it held up wonderfully. The main thing that really shows its age is the sound.
I was going to say
design.
the quality of the transfer, like a remaster would do this movie a lot of good.
Oh yeah.
But the movie itself, I thought was, for its time, really decent.
Yeah, really, really nice. And also, I actually have a little bit of a fun fact when you said, speaking of the snow of the movie. So the snow in the town of Snow Hill was actually created by gallons of shaving cream. Yep.
Really?
Yeah. So I guess that was done in a studio set, and then the rest of it was just done out in the Italian mountains.
Yeah, convincing enough.
Yeah, it was very convincing. I didn't recognize it. Usually when you see a film like Casablanca, for example, you can kind of tell it's a little bit of a set.
Yeah.
But here, I could not tell that at all.
No,
I
me
thought that
neither.
was like a recreation of like a small town that they had made.
Yeah, I thought outdoors as well.
I loved the fact that the film took a lot of time to showcase long distance shots of the mountains, right? Like a lot of the scenes are characters on horseback traveling. Like for example, when Loco's going back to his gang later, we stay on him for a while, and he's just a small little dot on the vista as we see like the wide expanse. It drew me in much more to the film than if it was just like a bunch of like close-up sets.
Yeah, to its location. It adds a sense of scale to the area and how vast and how otherwise
drama.
empty it is,
Drama,
and
definitely.
dangerous as well.
Yeah, that's a big thing. There's always a tension because if somebody's horse breaks a foot, they're gonna die out there.
Yes,
so that's just a constant.
Mm-hmm.
And Tarantino obviously took a lot of influence from that. The Hateful Eight and Django all have beautiful vistas.
Right. And one more thing I appreciated was even though there were a couple of weird scenes of like I don't know if it was the transfer of the film or whatever. Like there was one point towards the end where there was like a fog that had set in.
Why don't we talk about the technical problems since we're there anyway?
Okay, sure.
Let's get out of the way.
So the scene I'm alluding to is towards the end of the film. This group of outlaws are going to the town or outside the town to get food because they're told that there's supplies there for them and they'll be well treated and well respected there. But there's a fog that sets in as Loco and his gang are getting ready to ambush them. And as we see the outlaws start to go towards the food, there's kind of like a haziness to like the screen that doesn't feel intentional. Like it feels like that was the best shot they got, and then they just had to roll with it rather than like some kind of fog adjacent that was added to really exemplify it. Like it felt like it wasn't supposed to be there almost.
It came across as damage to the actual film element to me. Did you notice those two? Because it's one scene where they're in the fog, but it's two disparate shots that are just super blurry.
Yes. I honestly didn't notice that. I thought it was intentional. When I saw it, I just thought for the sake of tension, they wanted to add in this fog. It did feel abrupt to me though. I had thought initially like, oh, this decision feels kind of out of left field. But now that you say that, yeah, maybe.
Because they're out there for a little bit, like in the fog, but it's only two individual scenes. And then when you cut, it fixes itself.
Yes.
Another one in the beginning, I don't know if you guys notice, when Django is being introduced, it seems like...
Nope, not Django.
Silence.
When Silence is being introduced, there's like a checkerboard filter over the lens.
Yes, that I did notice.
Which I don't know what they were trying to add. Do you have an idea?
Well, I mean, honestly, I didn't think about it too much because I thought it was just an issue with the stream or something. I was like, okay, I guess.
I looked at multiple sources. They're all there.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is at all.
I'm going to assume it's damage.
Yeah, it must be.
Another thing that was readily apparent in this film, and trust me, guys, we do like it, but the sound quality wasn't the best. There was a lot of, I would say, the vast majority of the dialogue was all seemingly ADR'd in after the fact, which I think was a common
100%.
practice in the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, there were a lot of scenes where the mouth stopped moving and then the person's still talking. And then not only that, there were many times, especially with Pauline, where she was talking and there was no like subtitles at all. So there's lots of dialogue from her that just got cut.
So I take it that you guys watched the dub version of this film.
Well, they're both dubbed.
Oh, they both are.
Yeah, but the Italian's dubbed and the English.
Did you
is
watch
dubbed.
it in Italian?
I watched it in Italian.
Same.
I actually watched it in English.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that was really
is
bad.
even worse.
Yeah.
It's even. I actually went. I switched to Italian for a little while just to like kind of feel it out, and it was better.
Yeah.
However, I guess I just wasn't really in the mood to be just reading subtitles. I kind of just wanted to see, because I like this. I like to focus a lot on like the face, you know, and like the subtle reactions of characters. So sometimes you can't do that, you know, when you're just reading subtitles. But yeah, it was pretty bad. So definitely I recommend to viewers out there who haven't seen this movie yet, definitely watch it in its original Italian.
And to be fair, I looked at other sources besides the stream versions, and the English subtitles weren't nearly as bad in the version I watched.
Oh, yeah.
So possibly if you get the Blu-ray, it'll have corrected subtitles.
Okay. Yeah, it was a little frustrating because she'd be talking. I'm like, I feel like she's giving us her backstory, and I'm getting like none of it.
And then the subtitle says, yes.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Like they will go on for like 2 sentences saying something, and it's like, yes, Sheriff. I'm like, what? But beyond that, I would say I do appreciate a lot of like the staging of characters and like how they moved and like where they were in relation to like the shot. I was talking earlier about like when we would see characters kind of like on horseback traveling. Like I appreciated like how they set all that up, because again, it really immersed me.
By the way, that's called blocking.
Right. And they did a very good job with all the blocking, because I definitely noticed in some other Westerns that sometimes there'd be like a character kind of off screen, but they're talking and they're like half there. I'm just like, oh, just move it over a little.
Right.
Yeah. So
overall, great blocking, great framing, a lot of beautiful silhouette shots as well in the film. Just a lot of like just focusing,
dramatic presentation.
Yeah,
a lot too.
Exactly. Focusing on that dramatic mood. They showcase that visually very, very well.
One thing about Westerns that I really appreciate is the music soundtrack, and I want to talk about it. This is composed by Ennio Morricone.
Not surprised.
Which is one of the most famous composers in like cinema ever. He's actually, I would say, one of my favorites, if not my favorite. He did a masterful job. I mean, like a lot of Westerns, I would say certain movies, there's like a consistent theme, but it's depending on the scene and depending on the emotion they're trying to get out of it, it's played just a little bit differently each time, which I thought was played very well. Going back to those like wide shots of characters traveling, I mean, when like Loco's traveling back to the town, the music is really playing, but it's like kind of suspenseful, kind of dreadful, almost like this is not a good thing that we're seeing here. We're seeing this like malignant force heading back to town, and we're supposed to be kind of afraid, for the people there, for Silence and Pauline and so on. So it's definitely, the music really played well to exemplify the emotions and the scenes and like the themes that were at play in this film.
100%.
And Tarantino used a Morricone score for The Hateful Eight as well.
Yeah.
Just to give people an idea of how powerful a lineage this is. Like, it had a big effect on the movies we watched today.
Absolutely. And one scene in particular where I thought the score was just wonderful. Like it was almost competing with the scene itself. That was just how beautiful it was. It was during the final standoff between Silence and Loco.
Amplified the tragedy for sure.
Oh my goodness, the haunting strings and choir was so beautiful. And then you notice like the score actually changes in the middle of the standoff to like this more kind of not uplifting, but almost like there's a sense that maybe there's a victory.
Yeah.
Maybe it's possible until he gets shot. And then suddenly the haunting score comes back rolling in. And that was just so beautiful.
The music plays in tandem with a lot of the setup for creating a false expectation to really make it crushing.
Oh, yeah. I felt that. Another thing I wanted to talk about. So I have a little bit of mixed feelings of the overall theme of this film, right? Because there were parts of it where I kind of felt like they were trying to just demonize bounty hunters, which is kind of unusual to me, considering bounty hunters are typically known for hunting down criminals, right? And at least in the beginning of the film, it wasn't clear to me that the people that they were hunting down were just kind of like petty thieves.
Right.
It felt like...
Well, one of the first things we see them do is take the sheriff's horse and leave him for dead, right?
Right, exactly. So you think these guys are clearly outlaws, they're criminals.
Yeah.
So I kind of was siding with Loco. Is that weird to say? Like,
well, for the beginning, I don't blame you.
I was definitely like, all right, this guy's doing nothing wrong. Like, why are people hating on this guy? Yeah, maybe he likes his job a little too much.
Well, I thought a lot of the point and the reason this flipping of expectation really works, or flipping of precedent, is that it's trying to make you ask what's the difference between lawful and moral. So the bounty killers are lawful. They're technically doing the right thing, and we've seen them as the heroes in so many movies, including like Django. The bounty hunters are the heroes. They're going around shooting people. But it's asking, like, should this power be in these people's hands, these citizens, soldiers? Because they don't have the discretion that a proper lawman would have. It's like the sheriff is against it at one point. And Loco says, but the law kills men. The hangman kills men. And he goes, yeah, but the law has the right. And I guess that right comes from having a process that's not so flippant. The big problem with Loco is how flippant he is, really. Like, he just takes lives without considering consequences. It's all about just doing it offhand.
But yeah, I don't know. I just felt because it was within the law, and the law, the law has decided, not Loco, right? The law has decided that these people are wanted, dead or alive, for their crimes. You know what I mean? First off, it doesn't make any sense if they're just...
But he's not using discretion. That's the word I was looking for. He doesn't use discretion.
I mean, he's not torturing them.
As
he's killing them. He's just shooting them. I mean, like a bounty hunter would do, right? I don't know. I feel like...
Well, you could lock up a man. Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Well, so one thing to that is the sheriff asked Loco at one point, these men are wanted dead or alive. But knowing you, I feel like they always come back dead. So that's where I think there's the issue there, is like his moral compunction towards, or his moral predilection towards violence as opposed to just bringing them in. Because like the sheriff, every time, as far as I know, he doesn't kill anybody. Like, he arrests Loco. He actually saves Loco's life.
Yeah.
And, he arrests him, right? And he takes his whole trek to put Loco in jail. So he's like an example of, almost like lawful good, where he's trying to save lives.
Yeah.
But then that's in direct repudiation to Loco and his point of view, which is, I'm given the same power in essence, but I'm choosing violence, even though I don't always have to.
Pauline's husband drops his gun and surrenders. That's true. And they're literally in the town where he's going to be turned in, and he just gets shot dead. Like, there's just no discretion there.
I guess what just doesn't help is I just don't know their crimes. Like, I feel like that allows you to side against Loco, right? Keeping it kind of vague and making it seem like, okay, they're not so bad. They should just be taken in. But like, if the movie could easily be rewritten and showing that these outlaws are murderers, serial killers, right?
I love that the movie could be flipped if it was framed differently.
Exactly. So
it's interesting.
I feel like Loco has a right to, like, another thing. Okay, if you're wanted dead or alive, because you could be wanted just alive. That's an option in bounty hunting.
Sure. I get where you're going with this, but this one guy has a dead or alive warrant on him, and he's just stolen some supplies. He hasn't killed anybody. We know that for sure. Pauline's husband isn't a murderer.
All right, I feel like that's a problem with the law, right?
For sure.
It's not an issue with the bounty hunter. It's the issue with the law. The law is the law of the land, and they said, all right, this crime is deemed bad enough that you can go ahead and kill this guy and bring him into us. And he's just following procedure.
I get you, but if he had his day in court, brought in alive, he might have had a second chance.
And actually, Loco does mention that, like, oh, maybe he'll go in court and, make his case and become free, right? So to him, it's almost like he's doing the world a service to eliminate these people as opposed to giving them their chance in court. Because he feels like that's going to lead to nowhere.
Yeah, he feels like they're irredeemable already. Once they're,
I don't think he cares whether they are or not. It's just more convenient to haul in a corpse.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah,
he does mention that as well.
Yeah,
because they're dangerous men, he says.
Tarantino references this question in The Hateful Eight, where they have the conversation in the buggy. Why are you bringing in people alive? Bringing in a desperate criminal is a fast way to get yourself killed. And he goes, "Hey, no one said it's supposed to be easy. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's the right."
True. I don't know. It's really tough. It's a tough question.
I agree with you, but I don't think it's wrong because I don't think it's telling you one way is right or the other. I like that it's asking the question.
I do like it. Definitely. But I'm just saying that I am a little bit with Loco. A little bit.
I feel you.
Right? To a certain degree. Mm-hmm. Granted, he's a dick. Right? Like, there's no doubt about that.
You don't have to be a dick about it.
Yeah, don't be a dick about it. They're human lives, but like, you're still ultimately doing your job. Like showing him as an antagonist feels off, especially like he never went after Silence either at first. Silence was commissioned by Pauline to go kill him. You know, Silence is almost just like him. He's maybe even worse. He's just going and getting revenge just because he has a personal vendetta against bounty hunters because of what happened when he was younger.
I think the moral quandary is that citizen thugs should not have the power to go around the land taking lives. And that's essentially what the governor's problem is. In the beginning, the governor is talking to the sheriff and says, we can't have this anymore. We can't have these thugs going around killing people. Wanted dead or alive or not, we need to have the state in control of this power.
Yeah, he's saying like of the times this is no longer viable anymore.
Right. But and at the same time, can you guys also like acknowledge that Silence is also doing wrong here? You know, he's taking advantage of the law even beyond the bounty hunters.
Oh yeah.
Right?
No. I totally agree.
You know, he uses this method of provoking the outlaws, the bounty hunters into drawing their guns so he can legally kill them.
Yes, he's skirting the law in the exact same way the bounty killers are, essentially.
Yeah.
He's making a living off of bodies.
Right. I think in an even more flagrant and wrong way, to be honest, than the bounty hunters.
Because it's some random person who hired him as opposed to the law hiring somebody.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Because he's not killing criminals. He's killing the people that bring in or kill the criminals.
Well, yes, exactly. But morally terrible people, supposedly, because the people who hire him are ones who are obviously personally hurt by what they did.
Yeah, but they're going to be personally hurt whether the husband's...
Whether he's a good guy or not.
Whether he's a good guy or not. Maybe Pauline's husband... You know, he stole, but let's say it was again the case. It was reframed to that he murdered a man.
Yeah,
you know,
and then his wife gets pissed.
The wife's just pissed and hires an assassin to go kill the bounty hunter. You know, like it's like what?
Hey, he's working within the law, baby.
Oh my god.
I agree. So
to be clear, the outlaws outside the city or outside the town were former army men. So I don't think they explicitly say why they have a bounty on them.
That was interesting, yeah.
But it seems like it has something to do with them being in the army. Maybe they were deserters. Maybe
I thought maybe they were just on the wrong side and got stuck behind enemy lines. Like I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah, it
seemed like something broad like that because it said a few times that the governor is planning on pardoning them. I don't think he would pardon them if they were a bunch of killers.
Right. I mean, you know, we see a lot of kind of women. I don't know if we see children there, but like some older people there as well. So it's not like this is like a roving gang of criminals that are out there trying to like attack people and are doing wrong and they need to be shut down. There's it's basically like people that are trying to fend for themselves. One thing that I thought didn't work to the advantage of the film was their characterization a bit, because to Danny's point earlier, it's the way they're portrayed was a little strange. Like the first time we see them is when Silence kills some of the bounty killers, and then they come and they come down and basically say thank you for your service here, and they're played off very like they need help. But then when we see them again, they're like taunting the sheriff. They're saying like they're like kind of smiling almost. They're like pointing their gun at him, saying like, "Oh, you better get out of here because we're gonna eat your horse now." And to me, that was like a little bit of a strange characterization there that made me feel like, okay, as a director trying to say that these people, there's maybe a reason why Loco's hunting them beyond his like, weird sensibilities, or is it just, they're trying to survive? Like I don't know. Their characterization didn't really play too well. For me, and it kind of brought the film down a little bit because it's like, are we supposed to be rooting for Silence to help these people or not? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I like the ambiguity because I think it's important for the message to say it doesn't matter that they're perfect people or innocent. They have a right to live regardless.
Yeah, I think Sergio Corbucci's really playing with that gray area of morality, right? And the law. So he's leaving it very, very open as to.
I feel like it would be too childish if they were just innocent people trying to survive in the mountains. It would be like, okay,
yeah, then it's
Loco's purely the bad guy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they need to leave that open to let you question. Like yes, they seem innocent. Like maybe they're outlaws for more petty crimes, but at the same time, they do some very questionable actions during the film. So it makes you think maybe Loco is in the right to try and track these people down.
Yeah, I hear you. I guess it's just the way that they approach the sheriff. They're like kind of laughing at him and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
they were nasty.
They basically like left him for dead.
That's why I
All
was
intents and
surprised.
purposes.
That's why I was surprised the sheriff actually switched to their side so quickly. I'm like, these people left you for dead.
Yeah,
because he understands their plight.
he
you know?
does.
But I
mean,
wouldn't have blamed him for like saying screw those guys.
True.
Yeah, it's just a matter of extremes. Like one hand, they're like, "Thank you for your help. We're trying to survive," and the other is like they're cackling at somebody as they leave him to die. You know, like that. That was just too wide of a swing there for me to really seem realistic.
Remember
enough.
that the law has not been on their side to this point, so he would be kind of like an enemy.
Sure. Yeah. I hear you on that. Again, it's just the way they characterize them. It seems off. That's all.
Speaking to Silence, you're saying he could easily be the bad guy, right?
Absolutely.
It's funny you mention that because he has a reputation that precedes him. And Pauline even says, "Oh, I thought you'd be older." So clearly he has a big body count behind his reputation.
Mm-hmm.
He got his revenge a long time ago, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
We kind of show that, right? I mean, he shoots off the thumb in a flashback of Polycut, one of the man that had slit his throat.
So at this point, it's just a way of life for him. So I just not to reiterate, but I agree with you. I think he's just as bad as Loco in that way.
Absolutely. And also another thing, kind of away from that topic, Pauline and Silence, right? So they're they become a little romantic during this movie. That's an issue I had with this film as well. I thought that was incredibly unnatural, unrealistic.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
I disagree there.
It's like the moment Pauline's husband died, they just started connecting within like nothing.
Love making in grief is a thing.
I guess, I don't know. She was so quick to say "I love you" to him.
That's the part that I was like, I don't know if that's the case.
just felt
Interesting. I didn't see "I love you" in my dub, in my sub.
We watched, I think, the same one, right? The Amazon Prime one.
Nope.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she tells him
That's
she loves
interesting.
him.
I didn't
like
see
right
that.
before he goes off to confront Loco at the end. Says, "I love you."
She goes because she tries to convince, let's just go riding off into the sunset. Forget these people; they're gonna all die anyway. And I love you. That's what she says in the dub, and I guess in Sean's.
Well, regardless, don't you think that could just be trying to save his life?
Maybe.
I don't see that in such an emotional state. Her saying that as unrealistic. That's my view on that.
I mean, it was like what, 2 days after?
I guess I could see your point of view about in grief, right? You find comfort. So,
and on top of that, little bit seedy detail, she's paying him for his services. He never says no to that, so that is also part of it.
Well, the way they
Like,
play
yes
that off
and no,
is
but
the way they
kinda.
play that off is like she mentions that, and then she goes to turn around and he leaves.
So
So
he
that's supposed to be
rejects
his that's his rejection. But that I was seeing that more as like they just happen to have a connection. They happen to start lovemaking, as opposed to him saying like, okay, I'm getting my return on this.
Yes, all I'm saying is he was pretty confident he was going to seal the deal when he did go for it, because he was like, it's already out there.
He's been there before, done that.
Yeah.
He knows how it goes.
Exactly.
There was another scene that I felt a little bit weird about. I felt it didn't make much sense. Sure. So after Pauline hires Silence to go kill Loco, right? Silence goes and tracks Loco down. He's at this like the saloon, I guess. He's playing poker with some random guys, or maybe they're just fellow bounty hunters.
They were fellow.
They were his friends, as he put it.
Okay. So so Silence goes in there and he decides to go with his normal tactic. I'm gonna go ahead and antagonize this guy. He goes and he like throws his cigar inside of the guy's drink just to provoke him into drawing on him. However, Loco knows that tactic. He's heard it already. So he decides to just take off his gun belt so that Silence can't do anything about it. And he decides to like go ahead and fist fight this guy. He fist fights him. He loses. And then the poker friends pull out their guns, and Silence goes ahead and wastes them all, right? And then he goes and he grabs Loco's gun holster and he throws it to Loco, and he just stares at him, like waiting for him to grab it so he can shoot him. And then Loco goes for it, and the sheriff comes in
Right.
and stops him and puts him in jail for that. You know, he says, you ain't supposed to go shooting men in the back.
I think that was a mistake or a missing shot.
It must be.
Because he is shot in the shoulder after that.
Who is?
Silence.
But he
So,
never. Oh,
I went through
right.
the movie twice, and that's the only point where that could have happened. So I think there's a missing shot there.
Is it? Oh, because I saw he didn't shoot first. Actually, one of the other guys shot first. And
One of the guys in the salon got him?
that
Oh,
he shot,
okay.
and Silence kind of reacted, and then he shot everybody. So I understood that as he got shot by one of the guys in the
Okay.
salon.
Oh, so then what you're saying, I just take it as the sheriff being a little bit corrupt because he doesn't like the guy.
Yeah,
I don't see that as a problem with the movie, but like
Oh.
the guy's a dick. Then
Oh,
Yeah, it just felt like it didn't make sense. Why are you hating on it? Like Silence just went in there and bombarded the entire saloon. You know,
no, he hates Loco. They've been fighting at that point.
Maybe I saw a little differently,
Mhm.
and I kind of alluded to it earlier, but the sheriff grows to be a bit more lawful good. Like he wants to follow what he thinks actual justice is.
Yeah.
So I imagine, in part, yes, he doesn't like Loco, but he also knows that if he leaves Loco to his own devices, he's going to get killed or kill others. So I think in that moment, he's seeing what's going on, and he feels that this man shouldn't be killed, but instead should be arrested.
Because he's seen what Silence can do at this point after he shot.
Yeah, he knows the guy is dead. Like if he didn't shoot the gun out of his hand,
that's
like,
true. He did save his life.
Yeah, and then he immediately takes him to jail away from Silence, and then he takes him out of town to another jail.
Right.
Like he's purposely trying to get him away from Silence so that he could put him in jail. So I think that
But how does he not put Silence in jail as well? He had just gotten there. He didn't witness the whole thing. Otherwise, he would know not to put Loco in jail, right? Seeing what just transpired. And if he had just gotten there,
nothing's very official. This is his discretion. He's sole rule of law.
It really is his discretion because, Silence saved his life practically.
Well, all I can think is this guy's a bumbling idiot.
Yeah,
well, kind of.
Yeah, again, I mentioned it, but he grows to be more lawful. He grows into his position because when we first see him, he's like kind of cowering against the governor, being forced out into this like podunk town. He can't survive out in the town. His horse dies on him, basically.
Frozen gun.
Frozen gun. He doesn't know. Like,
and he strikes me as a little bit soft for that position.
Yeah, definitely.
But a good shooter, which is weird, right? Because you see that.
I like that detail.
That scene where he like shoots like two halves of a potato in the sky, and you're thinking, "Damn, okay, we're about to see this guy in some action later." Which, spoiler alert, we don't see anything
from him.
Yeah, it's just like that scene. I don't know. It feels like it's just like it points you in the wrong direction with this guy.
The movie is constantly doing that. That's one of the things I love about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So he just kind of grows into the position. He grows a little cocky. Like it's definitely up to his discretion. He's feeling like, oh, like I'm the lawman now.
He's using his enforcement a bit more by the end. Yeah.
Exactly. So he feels like he's empowered enough to, take charge, right? Like he's telling the townspeople, oh, set the food out for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this man to jail. I don't care how difficult it is. Like he's going to do it. But for him, too little, too late.
He becomes the hangman Ruth.
Well, yeah,
I won't kill anybody, but I'll take him to the law.
That little lady, why they call him the hangman. When John Ruth the hangman catches you, you hang.
Oversight or misdirection. In the beginning, the sheriff can't shoot his gun, like you guys mentioned, because it was frozen, so it misfires or whatever. Then later on, as he's transporting Loco fakes having to take a crap, pulls a gun out of the snow, and
fires it.
And you can explain how he does it. But were you guys expecting it to jam as well? Because they set it up that you have to keep your gun warm?
That definitely crossed my mind.
Same. It did as well, but then as I thought about it, I was like, no, we've been shown that Loco is very intelligent and he's like set himself up very well in this area. I mean, he knew where like some other bodies were buried just by the location. So they set that up earlier in the film. So we know that he's probably laid other like bodies or whatever around. So I guess it would be a bit of a disconnect from his characterization if the gun had jammed.
To make
if
a big
it was
mistake
frozen.
like that,
Yeah,
Well-
for it to be a mistake, because like at every turn, like he's shown to be very calculating, very intelligent, very very well prepared.
I mean, you do kind of see, right, that the rifle looks slightly wrapped in something.
Yeah,
And he
it's
did
wrapped in
wrap it,
fur.
yeah.
It's
So-
wrapped in fur.
So there's
it keeps it
that,
warm.
and also maybe that with the insulation of being under the snow versus.
Oh yeah, I think it's
in the
realistic. I
wind.
just think the movie sets up the expectation in our minds.
Yeah, definitely.
that it's going to jam.
It definitely gets pushed in your head. So definitely there's a misdirection there, and there's another misdirection with the sheriff getting shot into the lake.
Yes.
Right? You think why did the director choose for Loco to instead of just shooting him in the head, right? Shoot him.
That's what Sean was getting to. That it usually in movie language, if you don't show a character actually like getting the bullet through his head,
then they're alive.
then they might come
Generally,
back.
right? But again, misdirection because we never see this guy again, unless he did survive and he just ran off and
In the middle of nowhere in that frozen water.
yeah, well, no,
He's
probably
done. He's done.
Yeah, no, he's done.
He's not Bear Grylls. He can't,
Yeah.
he can't figure that out.
He ain't drinking his own piss.
You can recycle pee to help you survive. Nice and sweet, anyway.
Yeah, just the way he was offed was very interesting. I thought the reason Loco had done that was very smart too, because if you shoot a sheriff, as they point out many times, like that's big trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the way that Loco did it, it could just be an accident. Oh, he slipped in the river. You know what I mean?
But
Like,
to the
it's,
sheriff, he contradicts that. He says, "You're on the side of the law. I'm on the side of survival of the fittest." So he knows it's murder, but I guess now he has an excuse if somebody comes across the body.
That's the point. Yeah, no, I'm not saying he doesn't think it's murder. I'm saying like that's how he can explain it
Right.
to others if they ask, because he was seen being paraded out of town by the sheriff, and like a lot of people saw that. So if he comes back, people are gonna be like, "Wait, what happened?" It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, the sheriff fell in, and I couldn't save him, so I'm back."
But it's at this point we learn that he's not a lawful bounty hunter just working within the laws doing his job. He'll straight up murder a guy if it's convenient for him.
Absolutely.
So that's when he becomes the full villain, I guess.
Right.
Absolutely. And yeah, just to reiterate one point, I did appreciate that the film didn't go to that Deus Ex Machina of a character saving somebody else. I mean, we see that even at the end where we think, oh, maybe someone will help out Silence at the end with Loco. No.
I'm like running through the character list. Who's left?
Maybe Pauline will like save him. No. Just shown many times like the brutal, harsh reality of this world.
So yeah, I think that was actually another misdirect. Like when the outlaws, the ones that have been like out hiding in the mountains, are coming into the town, I thought that was gonna be like, oh, they're gonna go.
They're
help
gonna side with Loco, big battle.
Yes,
I mean,
side with Silence and
side with Silence,
fight
yeah.
Loco and the bounty hunters. That's what I was thinking.
That'd be
But
cool. A big
nope.
shootout in the street.
But nope, they just get taken out easily, or no, they get captured and then they get butchered.
But easily, yeah.
At the end, yeah, easily. They barely had any guns. I
Only
think
a couple of them have
most
guns.
of them had like sticks or like
Yeah.
pitchforks or something. But man, that ending scene, man, when they played dirty again, I thought at least Loco was gonna actually try and do a one-on-one duel with him, knowing that he's injured already.
Yeah.
But nope.
No.
He had his
honor.
other bounty hunter just like shooting him from the window at the same time.
He was never even gonna allow a fair fight.
And Pauline even says that. It's like he's probably lying when he says that. He's probably gonna kill the hostages anyways.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even matter. So let's talk about that ending a little bit more.
Sure.
Definitely unexpected. Again, it played to the themes of the film where a big battle is not gonna save the day. Right? It's about like the choices you make early on that will decide it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were many chances for somebody to put Loco away, but they don't take it ultimately. And this malignant force comes back into town and does basically what he intends to do, which is just wipe out everybody for all intents and purposes. And there are many times where justice or the law could have taken action here, but it doesn't. Or it's hamstring in a way that it's not to the benefit of anybody.
Yeah, there's a precedent already, and they're not gonna go against the grain.
Right. So I appreciated that this film didn't shy away from probably what this scenario would actually be like in real life.
Yeah,
Right.
even with the world's best gunman.
Yeah, exactly. Like, one gunman is not going to
Thugs
save
are
a
not
town.
gonna give him a fair shot.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, they're not going to have a duel, high noon and save the day, right? yeah, it's just the film was very dark as a result. Very very much a bummer, but I can appreciate for what the film was trying to do there. And actually, in fact, this is one of those times where I appreciate the epilogue of the film, where they show little title cards saying, "Hey, the public has there's like massive public outrage
Yeah.
at the thought of these bounty killers."
This is known as the Snowbird Massacre. Or
I
something.
can read it,
Snow Hill
actually. I wrote
Massacre.
it down.
Oh, you did? Okay,
Go
yeah.
for it.
Yeah,
please do.
so it's stated at the end. It says, "The massacres of the 1898 year of the Great Blizzard finally brought forth fierce public condemnation of bounty hunters who, under the false guise of legality, made violent murder a profitable way of life." So I find it interesting that they say under the false guise of legality, right? I almost have a little bit of
Because they're not working to the spirit of what the law is. They're being more brutal than they have to be. They're using less discretion than a lawman would, and they're using the law in that way.
right. Okay.
Because I think the expectation is that the law is moral,
Yes.
and it's not in this case.
And it's not.
To me, that ending card showcased what a Pyrrhic victory Loco had ultimately. Where like, yes, he wins the day and he escapes the town with his gang. But that, according to the title card, that
Sets things
that
in motion.
massacre sets into motion his downfall.
Yes.
Right? Because like he can't live the way he can anymore. So either he's gonna be hunted down, thrown in jail, or just dead.
or destitute, because
Or
that's the only
destitute,
way
yeah.
of life he knows.
Exactly. So.
And it's, you brought up a good point. If Silence had miraculously taken them all out and won the day, then the bounty killers win. They would have continued their way of life as a whole, not Loco, but that career would have kept going.
Exactly. Yeah. To have a victory there would mean that you're saying that system works. Right? Because you're working within the bounds of that system to say, hey, there was a good bounty killer that helped everyone out. So there's some leeway in terms of saying, okay, well, maybe this can work, maybe with a little more law on it. But no, in this case, it's just outright, no, this leads to the death of too many people. We have to stop this.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it, because if the movie didn't have that title card at the end, I would feel a bit differently about this film. To be honest, it's like
Bummer for bummer's sake.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, well, cool. You just showed a massacre. All right. Neat.
I mean, I still would have enjoyed the subversion of expectation. I would have enjoyed it on that level, but this
Certainly.
adds.
This adds
It
a lot
definitely
to
adds. Yeah. And it's unusual for a title card at the end to add so much to a film. Generally, you don't. I mean, I usually don't see. Usually, it feels
because
like,
it changes the meaning of what happened.
exactly. Usually, it doesn't change the meaning. It just kind of reinforces what's happened.
Like, for example, Lolita. The title card at the end, the epilogue is Humbert dies in jail essentially from a heart attack.
Exactly. That in comparison just feels so just tacked on there
Yeah.
for like seemingly no reason.
Yeah, this one and
Versus
this film adds a lot more
The silver lining. It adds a silver lining to the horrible events at the end of the film, basically. Little side note, actually, would you guys would you have wanted to see like some kind of like spin-off sequel with Loco after these events and seeing everything kind of starting to crumble around him?
I think I
having to
would.
survive?
Klaus Kinski, the actor, was a joy to watch on screen. I would have loved to. I'd love to see more of him.
Amazing screen presence. Like, he played a hell of a villain for sure. I also really enjoyed the actor who played Silence. He definitely is a little bit of a Clint Eastwood look-alike. He's got that kind of vibe.
He's got a good look.
He's
Yeah.
got a good look about him. I don't know that much about Westerns. Truth be told, I don't really watch Westerns. But do you guys know if he's done more film? If he's known as a
Him
Western
specifically,
actor?
I don't know. No.
Not sure.
No.
I've dipped my toes in the genre, but I wouldn't know enough to know the familiar faces.
Right.
To answer your question, yes, I would love to see that, because then it would put this film into a greater context, which again is what I think the epilogue does,
Right.
but to even greater extent.
Maybe frame him as the hero in the next one.
Yeah, like some kind of redemption arc for him would be pretty cool to see.
But he still gets wiped out at the end.
Sure.
Oh, he's got it. That's the trajectory, right?
Right. So according to Sergio Corbucci, the director, Marcello, let me see if I can say this name. Hold on. Marcello Mastroianni gave him the idea of a mute gunfighter when the actor told him that he always wanted to do a Western, but unfortunately did not speak English. And when Corbucci first met Jean-Louis Trintignant, which is Silence, he learned that he didn't speak English either. So pretty much that kind of sparked the idea right there. He was like, okay, well, I guess now's the time to make a silent protagonist. And that's how it came to be.
Dope.
Has there ever been a case where they ADR'd somebody's voice in that wasn't the character? Like somebody plays the character on screen, but the voice is different?
Darth Vader.
Well, certainly. But I mean, in terms of like a Western.
Isn't that most of the characters? Like in the dub, it's not the same.
Oh, right.
Like,
The English dub, right? It's a different voice.
No. I mean,
Everybody.
like in the Italian dub.
So they got a different Italian guy?
Or maybe one guy that speaks English.
that even might be a precedent for Italian spaghetti westerns. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. It could be just all of them for all we know, yeah.
Honestly. All right, boys, be ready for scores?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
All right. I'm going to go 7.5 out of 10. It has weak dubs and some technical flaws, but it's a highly entertaining Western with great music, gorgeous cinematography, and a gripping story. What about you, Dano?
I'm going to go 7.5 out of 10 as well. I agree with everything you just said. Absolutely. The dub was a little off. There's some moments where I didn't talk about it earlier, but where the acting was a little bit overly dramatic, more so than I wanted. Definitely some technical issues, and the sound design. Well, I mean, it's dated.
In terms of the ADR for like punches and
and gunfire,
Yeah.
It just felt very flat, which I did not like. But it is a wonderful story. It really makes you wonder what's going to happen at every corner. There's a lot of misdirection, which I think is awesome, and great action. So 7.5 out of 10. Sean?
I give it an 8 out of 10. Not all movies need to have a happy ending as much as we would like them to. This film is very intense, but it's incredibly engaging about how justice is served and who decides to serve this justice. No one is innocent and everyone has to pay a price. Unfortunately, just not always those who are the most deserving. It's a realistic take on what a situation like this would be like, and it doesn't really sugarcoat what would actually happen when there's a lack of law and order. It's a tough watch, but it was enthralling all the same. So for me, 8 out of 10.
Well said. And with that, join us next week for Quiz Show 1994.
What if we were to put you on the show? Put you on 21 and ask you questions that you know. Say the questions that he answered correctly on the test this morning.
You want to win, don't you?
Well, I think I'd really rather try to beat him honestly.
What's dishonest?
Nobody has to know. Just us three.
John Turturro stars as Herbie Stemple, a contestant of a televised quiz show who quickly finds out that all is not as it seems in show business. This American historical drama tells the true story of the 21 quiz show scandal of the 1950s. You can rent it on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, and YouTube. Sean, where can they find us?
You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Ardent Cinema. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, give us a rating and a review. It really goes a long way towards helping build the podcast. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, hit like, click subscribe, and hit the little notify bell so you're made aware when new episodes drop every single week. And with that, guys, thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate it. And with that, we bid you adieu.
Farewell.
Long live the new flesh.
It's back.
Never left.
Always here.